Do you think we are aware of how emotionally intelligent we need to be to thrive in a workplace in a country like Canada, for example?
I would say not yet. I would say we are all on a journey. And it took me some time to understand this and experiencing other things and making mistakes as well. So I'll give you one of my earliest mistakes. When I initially joined as a manager, I used to go into meetings with, as I was the head of a team of 15 people.
Okay.
And then we go into the management meeting, the senior management meeting, and other departmental heads would bring up issues or question what we're doing. And immediately I would jump in. I was thinking I was defending myself and my team, but it came out differently to them. And so my boss then called me and said, "You might not realize this, but you pounce on people whenever they bring up issues. Everybody, you attack them when they say things." And so it took a while for me to step back, assess myself, and then go and learn and then develop some strategies to be able to not only self-regulate, but also practice how to respond and how to, so that you are seen as emotionally intelligent. Now, here in the Western world, emotional intelligence is everything. Because back home we are very expressive. We say it as it is.
As it is, we are brash.
Yes, we are loud, we are boisterous, but that does not work, especially in the corporate West. You would not be, it's frowned upon. And so on, that's also being self-aware, because a lot of us are not self-critical and self-aware. We always believe whatever happens is always the other person's issue, it's not ours, right? There's always a bad person in our story, right? But we need to start to develop the way to step back, look inwards, assess yourself, and then take it on from there. So know what triggers you, know what annoys you, know the phrases that brings up, you start to see the red mist. And then what do you do when you see the red mist? So yeah, you might get annoyed at some point, but how do you respond, or do you react? What do you do? Those are the things that make you emotionally intelligent. For us immigrants, a lot of us confuse emotional EQ with IQ.
And they're two different things.
There are two absolutely different things. And so we might be intelligent, but book intelligence and all that, but not emotionally intelligent. And so a lot of us are book brilliant, but we don't have social skills because we're not taught those things. Not only don't we have social skills, we don't have social skills that work in the Western world. And so it becomes difficult for us to translate our regular intelligence into emotional intelligence when we get in the workplace. And if things don't go our way, we target discrimination, we target harassment, we target all sorts of things without being critical of self and looking that it's not just for the workplace, but it's a life skill. Even in your homes, even in managing your relationships, managing your friendships, managing, with your spouse or your partner or with your children or with your community or with your friends. Being emotionally intelligent is the key to unlock anything you want in the Western world. And so
hello everyone, you are once again welcome to another interesting episode of the TheDebotaiwotalkshow, and I want to say big thanks as always to people who have supported the content that we put out every now and then. Thank you for liking, for commenting, and we really encourage you to keep doing that so that more people can see the content that we put out there. Today we will be talking about a very interesting topic that benefits a lot of immigrants in Canada or even in the Western world. We're discussing about emotional intelligence. And as you already know, emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage or even influence your own emotions and emotions of others. It is not about suppressing them, but rather it's about handling them skillfully and constructively. And, as immigrants moving into a new country, you definitely need this skill to thrive in the workplace. And that's where my guest comes in. And who is my guest today? Is an awesome person. I've known this person for maybe about 20 years right now. We haven't seen in a very long time, but I'm really proud of him. So I'm about to introduce my guest today, who is a seasoned safety leader with over 15 years of global experience, driving impactful safety outcomes across diverse sectors. Bunmi Alabi is going to help us uncover what emotional intelligence means for immigrants from Africa or other parts of the world, how you can thrive on emotional intelligence in a workplace. Bunmi, you're welcome to the TheDebotaiwotalkshow.
Fantastic. It's a privilege to be on. I've seen a lot of stars on your show, so I consider myself privileged to be
Oh
on.
my God! Thank you for that. Thank you for that. But we're a baby. We're taking the baby steps right now. Thank you for supporting the brand. And it's really good to see you on this platform. It's good to see you. It's been such a long time for me.
Yes, definitely. It's always a pleasure. Who would have thought Debo would be into talk shows when we were back in university? But here we are.
Back in the day, yeah. Just so you guys are seeing this, Bunmi Alabi is a senior manager. He's held his own in the health and safety industry. So definitely has a lot of experience to share as it concerns this topic that we're dealing with today, which is managing emotional intelligence in the workplace. Yeah, so Bumi, you've done pretty well for yourself in the health and safety field. You've grown to the position of a senior manager. Can you just share with us briefly how life has been for you? Very briefly, moving across continents from Africa, Europe, and now North America. How's life been for you career-wise, in a nutshell?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I consider myself very fortunate. When I finished my first degree in microbiology, and then I went to the UK in 2009
Okay.
to do my master's in health and safety, environmental health and safety. I did every job possible in the UK. Like you name it, I've done it. Care support, worked at a dumpster, everything. I was very, but I was still very optimistic about Nigeria and going back to Nigeria. And so, even though I had a work permit, then they were doing post study. I went back to Nigeria in 2011.
Okay.
I used like 8 months, less than a year out of my post study work, and then I went back to Nigeria. Nigeria was not encouraging as well, so I thought I'll come back to the UK. So I went back to the UK for another month or two. While I was in the UK, I missed an interview with NMPC. Anyway, I started my own with a couple of friends. We decided, hey, okay, we're not going to look for any job again. We started a consulting company. That was an interesting thing.
I remember that. I think I saw you and Tyre and a couple of times in Lagos. I remember that.
Yes, so we started. The first 6 months was challenging. There were 3 of us who started the company. We had an office in Dagada. We're supported by family and friends, and I think the first money we made was 200,000 to be shared amongst 3 people. In 2013. And then gradually we got to where we were. Where one of us dropped out. It was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. I have to go for a job. And then me and Tayo, we continued. We got to a point where we were making multiple millions, like 20, 30, 40 million per year. So we moved to Ikeja. We were registered with lots of government agencies. And then I got a fantastic personal consulting gig with the British government, where I was an expatriate. I used to go to East Africa 3 weeks every 2 months. I did that for 4 years.
Okay.
And so I was living in Nigeria. I was being paid in pounds.
Wow. You were living the life then. You were living the life. Why did you move to Canada?
Yeah, 2015 to 2019 or 2016 to 2019, I was making probably 3 million a month. And, my contract with the British government due to Brexit was coming to an end. I was like, okay, nobody in this place is going to pay me this kind of money. So I then started to plot my exit. And one of the reasons why I moved, I actually spent some time in the US where I went to give birth to my second child.
Okay.
In 2017. And then I thought, okay, North America is completely different from Britain. The UK was, my experience wasn't the greatest there. So although I'm still grateful to the British people because I'm British trained. So, and then I started to work on my PR. So my contract with the British government ended in 2019 July. My PR came out in 2019 July 1st.
Oh my God.
My contract ended July 23rd. My PR came out by September.
You
I
were
was here in Canada. Now that is the end of phase one.
Okay.
Then getting to Canada, I was telling my wife, hey, the way we lived, I've done all these hustle jobs, 10 years ago. I'm not prepared to do it. But at some point, I had to, when I spent 20,000 Canadian dollars in 1 month, I was like, okay, the reserves is going low. So I had to go and look for a survival job, which I did for a month. But I was always laser focused.
Do you want to clarify? Sorry, can you just state specifically what was that survival job you did for a month?
So it was Indigo. Indigo is a chain that does like books, like a chain of bookstores and gifts for kids. So it was their distribution center, just like an Amazon, where you order a book, somebody picks the book and puts it in the box that gets to you. But it was kind of a Christmas gig, so because they had higher orders in Christmas.
Of course.
So I was always like, okay, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this temporarily. And so I was fortunate enough. I got here September. I did that November to December. Then I went back to Nigeria in January. There was a World Bank project that I was leading. So I went back to do that. But before that, I got an interview for my first job here, which was a manager job with Maple Leaf Foods. So I'd done the interview. Yeah, I'd done the interview before I went to Nigeria. So I was sitting in a hotel in Benin Kebbi when they made me the offer.
Oh my God. All the way. Kebbi, Benin, Kebbi. Interesting.
Yes. People were asking me in Canada, like, why are you going back to the wilderness? You're not only just going back to Nigeria. So I landed in Nigeria on Friday. On Saturday, I was in Kano. Then I went to Sokoto. I went to Benin Kebbi. I was all over the north.
Oh my God.
And but it was all meant to be. Let me just leave it there. I'm sure there are more questions where I will explain the mental toll that that took on me. But overall, I would consider myself fortunate, not because I'm better than anybody else, but my international experience prior to coming to Canada really did help pave the way for me to be able to start at a managerial level in my first professional job. And that was the only interview I got. Like, I was always telling my wife, okay, let them even call me, let me come and see my own, let me come and speak my mouth. But I never got a call. It was the only company that I got a call from, and fortunately I got the job.
Wow, that's so impressive. And I see how the journey that you've had, from your experience being trained in the UK and the job that your private gig that you did working with the British government, I pretty much assume that it was very instrumental to you landing your first job as a manager. You paid your dues, so you might say you're fortunate, but you paid your dues. But I know for a fact that it's not easy coming from Africa and then coming in as a manager within a couple of months in this country. Like, it can be tough. So great work there, Bunmi. We're proud of your achievements so far. Now to today's topic. I mean, you've been around. You worked in Europe. You lived in the UK. Went back to Nigeria. Now you've been in Canada, and then you've been a manager for 6 years. Let's start from a well definition. How would you define emotional intelligence to start with, especially emotional intelligence, topic wise, and then in the workplace? How do you get into it? How do you relate? Let's go from there.
Emotional intelligence, it's an interesting concept, and I think you nailed it when you did your introduction. For me as a manager or as a professional, emotional intelligence, the first thing is yourself. Recognizing yourself, recognizing the things that trigger you, recognizing how you manage those triggers. And then the other part is, as a manager, recognizing other people's emotions and using other people's emotions to get the best out of them and to get what you want from them and to motivate them and to excite them. And so understanding yourself first, and then understanding other people and where they are coming from and what emotions they are acting on, and using that to your advantage in the workplace, and using that to get what you need done, and what attend their needs, but also get what you want as a manager done. And so using those, taking advantage of their own emotional state, their own emotional intelligence, and their own emotional I don't call it outbursts, their own actions, their emotional actions, using that to your advantage to get what you want. But you can't do that if you don't recognize what emotional intelligence is, and don't recognize what emotional intelligence is for yourself, and how to control and regulate yourself.
Thank you for that summary. So what I'm hearing at the end of the day is, you first of all need to understand yourself very well. You need to know what makes you think. You need to know what makes you excited, or what can trouble you. But of course, you also need to understand the emotions of the other person and use that to your advantage. So maybe you need to massage someone's ego by giving them a great feedback when they do something, or give them another type of feedback if they're not doing very well, just to bring them up to speed and different stuff like that. So thank you so much for that clarification. From your experience though, coming from Africa, do you think we are sometimes very emotionally intelligence aware, or do you think we are aware of how emotionally intelligent we need to be to thrive in a workplace in a country like Canada, for example, or in the Western world generally?
I would say not yet. I would say we are all on a journey, and it took me some time to understand this, and experiencing other things, and making mistakes as well. So I'll give you one of my earliest mistakes. When I initially joined as a manager, I used to go into meetings with, as I was the head of a team of 15 people.
Okay.
And then we go into the management meeting, the senior management meeting, and other departmental heads would bring up issues or question what we're doing. And immediately I would jump in. I was thinking I was defending myself and my team, but it came out differently to them. And so my boss then called me and said, "You might not realize this, but you pounce on people whenever they bring up issues. Like you attack them when they say things." And so it took a while for me to step back, assess myself, and then go and learn, and then develop some strategies to be able to not only self-regulate, but also practice how to respond, and how to, so that you are seen as emotionally intelligent. Now, here in the Western world, emotional intelligence is everything. Like, because back home we are very expressive. We say it as it is.
As it is, we are brash.
Yes, we are loud, we are boisterous, we are. But that does not work, especially in the corporate West. Like, you would not be. Is frowned upon. And so understanding the social nuances, the socially acceptable cues, the socially acceptable behaviors is one thing, but also being self-aware, because a lot of us are not self-critical and self-aware. We always believe whatever happens is always the other person's issue, it's not ours, right? There's always a bad person in our story, right? But we need to start to develop the way to step back, look inwards, assess yourself, and then take it on from there. So know what triggers you, know what annoys you, know the phrases that brings up, you start to see the red mist, and then what do you do when you see the red mist? So yeah, you might get annoyed at some point, but how do you respond, or do you react? What do you do? Those are the things that make you emotionally intelligent. For us immigrants, a lot of us confuse emotional EQ with IQ.
And they're two different things.
There are two absolutely different things. And so we might be intelligent, but book intelligence and all that, but not emotionally intelligent. And a lot of it comes from our training and our background. And so when I got here, I'll give you another example. I put when my kid got to kindergarten or grade 1, and I will go to the school and talk to the teacher. They are not giving them 1 + 1 is 2. They are not teaching them anything hard. They are teaching them how to play, how to communicate, how to say please, how to say thank you. They are teaching them social
Social
skills.
skills.
And so a lot of us are book brilliant, but we don't have social skills because we were not taught those things. Not only don't we have social skills, we don't have social skills that work in the Western world. And so it becomes difficult for us to translate our regular intelligence into emotional intelligence when we get in the workplace. And if things don't go our way, we target discrimination, we target harassment, we target all sorts of things without being critical of self and looking inwards.
100%. 100%. Thank you so much for sharing some of those personal examples for your own specific self, as far in your meetings, and you have to get feedback that, hey, dude, it seems like you're pouncing on anybody because you feel attacked. I think you were feeling attacked, like they are tackling you. Meanwhile, they were probably just asking, they needed clarification on things that you were doing. But I mean, it happened to me too when I first came in, and they'll give me feedback and I'm like, dude, I know this stuff. But no, you need to understand that there's a difference in how they expect, they are polished. It's just a whole different environment altogether, to be honest. And it's a long walk to trying to adjust to this new life that we're living now. It's going to take me to my next questions. Do you think, though, that, I think we touched about it, but I just want you to clarify a little bit. Are there any misconceptions immigrants often have about emotional intelligence? I think we just talked about it, but can you just clarify? Are there more misconceptions than immigrants have about emotional intelligence?
Yes, the major one is confusing emotional intelligence for
intelligence,
for regular intelligence. Yes, for IQ. Another misconception that I would say immigrants have about emotional intelligence. A lot of people think it is more about speaking and saying the right words. But sometimes emotional intelligence is also about not saying anything at all. Knowing when to drop the temperature, knowing when to lower the tone of voice, knowing when to defer, the intended communication, knowing when to push it and not talk about it at this time. And then a lot of people do not, listening is like, and we'll probably get there at some point. Listening and active listening, and it's a key critical component of emotional intelligence. But a lot of us want to prove we are right and that the other person is wrong. And we want to make them know that they are wrong.
Yeah.
And so, but we think it is us being emotionally intelligent by proving to the person that they are wrong. Right? And so that is not emotional intelligence. And that still goes back to confusing emotional intelligence with regular intelligence. And being emotionally intelligent is something that is not just for the workplace, but it's a life skill. Even in your homes, even in managing your relationships, managing your friendships, managing, with your spouse or your partner, or with your children, or with your community, or with your friends. Being emotionally intelligent is the key to unlock anything you want in the Western world. And so it's something that I think we need to pay more attention to, but also make the distinction of what emotional intelligence is as opposed to regular intelligence.
Thank you. To your point, it's been said that a lot of people that thrive in the world entirely have done way better for themselves only because they were even more emotionally intelligent than the actual technical intelligence, or like IQ, intelligent quotient. And you see that even in the world today, even some classmates that we knew in school, maybe secondary school or university, that were extremely brilliant, like they were, getting all the fives. Sometimes you find out that today they might not be earning the best amount of money where they're working. So if there's a lot of focus on IQ and less focus on EQ, it definitely does impact on all our lives, all strata of lives, marriage, children, family, and all of that. So definitely great points there. I'm going to ask you this question. How can immigrants handle feedback or criticisms in a culturally different environment like Canada? Like, from my experience, the culture of feedback is really big here. And even though it's delivered in the most diplomatic and professional manner, it still makes some of us think like, what's this person saying? And you still feel like to your point, you feel defensive. how can we handle feedback and criticisms in this kind of environment?
Yeah, so in my current role as the national senior manager, I have lots of managers across the country that report to me. This is one of the things that I tell them every time. Feedback is a gift. Feedback, anybody who gives you feedback, it's a gift. It's an opportunity for you to get better. Now, feedback might come, and in the Canadian workplace, it's very rare for feedback to come in a way where, you know, it sounds very degrading and demeaning, because everybody is kind of being taught to be very diplomatic in their language. And I tell my team as well, you have to learn to tell people to go to hell and they look forward to the journey, right? And then everybody must have heard of the sandwich method, right? Where you give a positive comment, you give an area of improvement, and then you end it with another positive comment. So that is where feedback is typically delivered. And maybe for your guests who don't understand that, so for example, I'll say, Debo, I love your shirt. You always dress sharply for your programs. And then I say, well, you might do better. There's an opportunity for you to do better with your time management for us to start on time. And then I end it with, overall, the quality of your show is good. The in-depth of communication and information is excellent, and keep up the good work. So I've praised you twice, but I've told you something to work on. Right? And so the sandwich method is typically used. But one of the things that immigrants can do so that they don't get very defensive about feedback, there are two things. Number one, assume positive intent.
Assume positive intent.
Yes, a lot of us do not always assume positive intent, whether it is feedback, whether it is somebody asking a question or somebody calling out something that we haven't done. It is just work. We always take it personal. We see it as a personal attack. So we need to assume that this person is not out to get me. This person doesn't want to kill me, doesn't want to get my job. That might be the case, that the person is bad. But what I've found here in the Western world is majority of people are inherently good. There would always be bad people everywhere.
Of course, everywhere.
And then everybody is playing politics. Like, you know, anywhere more than two people are gathered, there's politics going on.
100%.
And so they all have their own agenda in the workplace, right? And that is what we call, so you also have to be politically intelligent. So that's a different type of intelligence that I can talk all day about. So assume positive intent, and then you'll be able to get the message and not focus on the messenger. And so some of the things you can do with feedback, if you are not clear or you think it is unjustified, is you ask clarifying questions. Right? So if somebody says, Debo always comes late to work, he's never on time, or he never finishes his work on time, blah, blah, blah. You can say, okay, thank you for the feedback. I appreciate you bringing this to my notice. Just to be clear, what experience has informed that opinion? Right? So what have you done with those words? Instead of you going, what do you mean? I came at 2:00 today. I did this, I did that, I did that. It only makes you look weak. Right? You start to raise your voice, you already lost the argument with anybody. And it means that, you know, you're not very emotionally intelligent. But what you do is you throw it back at them. You ask clarifying questions. Say, just to be clear, what experience has informed this opinion? So what have you done there? You've tagged what they've said an opinion. And then you've asked them to prove it. So if you say, what experience has informed this opinion? So there must have been an experience from them that made them to think the way they think. So let them tell you, oh, on Tuesday the 25th, or I asked you to do this, you did not finish it on time. That might be true that you didn't finish it on time, but it also gives you an opportunity to respond. Right? To tell them, oh, I didn't finish it because Bunmi asked me to do something else, Because at the time that thing happened, they might not have asked you anything, but they just formed an opinion that they were going to use for feedback. Right? So when you ask clarifying questions, what experience has informed that opinion, you give them an opportunity to talk. And if they've just formed that opinion without any basis, you've put them on the spotlight that what they are saying is rubbish, it's not entirely true, and they cannot defend it. Right? So either way, it's a win-win for you, because it gives you the opportunity for you to respond to whatever experience they've had, or if they've not had an experience, it shows that what they are saying is not based on facts. Right?
Clearly.
So that's number one. Even the second one, like I talked about, and the first one, in terms of assuming positive intent, is difficult because as immigrants, we are a summation. Everybody is a summation of their life experiences, right? So we're all raised differently. Some people were trained or brought up to be more cynical, to suspect everybody. So it's difficult for them to believe that somebody has a positive intent towards them, right? So sometimes it's very, very hard. But if you assume positive intent, it will help you for my third point, which is when somebody brings up an issue or says something, always respond, don't react.
Always respond, not react.
Yes. So if you react, you're like, what do you mean? This. You start to raise your voice, your eyes are red like thunder, you make it personal, you start to attack the person, you are responding, you are reacting, right? But don't react, respond. After you've asked the clarifying question, you can then respond to the issue at hand. If it is that Debo did not meet his deadline, explain why Debo did not meet the deadline. Right? If it's that Debo came late, explain that, I did ask for permission to come late because I had to go drop my kid. Whatever it is, you respond, don't react. Because the moment you react, our emotions will come into it. And if we cannot control our emotions, we are out of control. We start to scream. Because we are very boisterous, what you think is even a low tone,
it becomes really high pitch already.
It is already high pitch for somebody. And then they can even start to cry and say you're shouting at them, you're bullying them, all sorts of things. Right? And so those are when you get feedback that is not desirable, that is not welcome, that you feel is unjustified, you ask a clarifying question, and I told you what that does for you. You respond, you don't react, and then you always assume positive intent. Those are the things that will help you to be more in control of your own emotion when you are responding to incidents like that. And then another key thing for feedback, is also don't internalize things. Like in the Western world, what people don't realize, work is just work.
End of story.
Your colleagues will talk to you in the office. The moment you guys get outside at the bus stop, they won't even greet you. Right? It's work is work. They don't take work outside. So don't personalize it. Don't internalize it. If you have that attitude that work is not the summation of your existence or the summation of your being, you would not internalize feedback too much, and you just take it as that feedback. Like I said, feedback is a gift, it's an opportunity for you to get better.
Makes sense. Very great point that you shared with us, Bunmi Alabi. Thank you again for being a guest on the TheDebotaiwotalkshow. In about 2 minutes, before I roll up the second round of time, I wanted to find out, you already shed a little bit of light on this, but I want to find out, what are common emotional triggers or challenges that new immigrants face at work, and how should we respond to them?
Emotional triggers. For us, it will be feedback is one. I would say another emotional trigger for us is being ignored.
Being ignored.
So a lot of us feel unseen. You don't feel like part of the in-group. You don't feel like your colleagues like you or they want to talk to you. You also feel part of it is also not not assuming positive intent all the time, because any question that comes, you feel attacked. You think, okay, there is a sinister motive behind it, or any pushback. And the higher you go, everything is pushback. You see, people don't realize that work management is a competition for scarce resources. The company has a small pie. Every department wants a piece of that pie. Why should they give your department, your team, your project that piece of that pie? So when you bring up something that they want to do, somebody's going to say, no, we shouldn't do it. Let's do something else. It's not about you. It's not because they don't like you. It's not because you're black. It's not. It's none of that.
They're trying to get.
Everybody has their own. Exactly. Yeah. They're playing their own local politics to get something. Like you, I will tell you, the born Canadians, I won't say white people. It's not like they like themselves, even at work. It's all, everybody's angling for, everybody has an angle.
For their own self-interest at the end of the day.
Exactly. It's all about them. It's not about you, right? And so don't personalize things. So those are some of the emotional triggers that we have. Is either we feel unseen or we take things too personal, right? People not talking to you at work or not wanting to converse with you, or you don't feel they are very open to you. It's, you know, it's not something for you to then you yourself go reserved, because they don't know you enough to open up to you. So you have to make it welcoming for them.
For them to have that.
Yes, exactly. And then, yes.